All right, let's bring in our panel right now. Joining us today, Rima Shahid, Tony Samuel, Robin Winston, and Mike Murphy. Let's start with Rima with Women for Change Indiana. Your reaction, first off, to this news, the Republican Party essentially ousting Attorney General Curtis Hill, choosing another candidate now, Todd Rokita, in the wake of these groping allegations he faced 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think that it just shows that we have to listen to women. We have to listen to women and what they say and their experiences. Congratulations to former Congressman Rokita in securing that nomination, and I would urge his staff to learn how to spell his Democratic counterpart's candidate's name.
Some press
releases.
Really
important.
Yeah, he didn't have it spelled right. People weren't sure if he was doing that purposefully or not. Let's turn to Tony Samuel, 2016 vice chair for the Indiana Trump campaign. You were a supporter of the attorney generals. Your reaction to this news?
Well, my reaction, I'm disappointed. He was a great conservative, is a great conservative leader for Indiana. He had most of the conservative votes, but Todd is also considered a conservative and took some of those votes as the balloting into the second and third rounds. Curtis was ahead by a decent margin in the first and still ahead in the second ballot.
So you don't think the process was fair?
Well, it is what it is. It wasn't the normal process because of moving to a virtual convention and mail-in ballots where you pick your first, second, and third choice rather than hearing speeches in person and being able to, see folks close up and listen to others that after the first ballot and second ballot might convince delegates to vote a certain way. So it wasn't, it certainly wasn't a good way to do it, but that's the decision that state committee, the Republican State Party made, and that's what we're going to live with, and we'll move forward.
Let's go now to former state party chair for the Indiana Democrats, Robin Winston. Robin, your reaction. What does this mean for the race for AG? Would it have been easier for someone like Jonathan Weinzapfel to face Curtis Hill instead of Todd Rokita?
I think people probably thought that, but look, Jonathan Weinzapfel did a great job as mayor of Evansville. He himself had a battle to become our nominee, winning over State Senator Karen Tallien by 48 votes. She subsequently has endorsed him. She's the honorary chair of his campaign. He will be an attorney general that stands up for the people of Indiana, stands up and fights for the Affordable Care Act. Also, he'll be an attorney general that is addressing what you talked about earlier and the need for comprehensive hate crime legislation in this state. So Jonathan will be a great candidate.
What does this mean? We're always looking ahead, potentially even 4 years from now, as we turn to former GOP lawmaker Mike Murphy. Is Todd Rokita, if he's elected attorney general, someone you think will want to run for governor in 2024?
Oh, I think that might be, but we're a long way from that, Dan. I think the big winner today was the Republican Party. I'm so proud of the 1,700 delegates who chose to shove aside a predator candidate and go with a guy who is scandal-free in Todd Rokita. The governor is a big winner. He does not have to defend Curtis Hill, have Curtis Hill literally on his shoulders for the rest of the election year. Holcomb can run his race. He's going to win big. And I love Jonathan Weinzapfel. He's a great guy, but he cannot beat the power of Eric Holcomb and Donald Trump in Indiana. Weinzapfel is the big loser today, and the Republican Party is the big winner.
All right, so we had that political news. Obviously, there's a lot of very serious news this week in the state as well. I want to get your reaction. We had obviously the mask mandate now in effect in Indianapolis, this debate over coronavirus and our schools in the fall, and also this really troubling situation in Bloomington this week as well. Rima, what else stood out to you this week in the news amidst everything that is happening here in our state?
I think there's a lot going on, that's for sure. I am, as a mom and as a woman in the workforce, what really stands out to me is how we're going to carry on in our school systems. Really, I'm glad that the president and Congressman Banks are talking about working families. And you know what else works for working families rather than bullying them into starting schools early is to provide paid family leave, provide sick days, provide pregnancy accommodations, and provide equal pay for equal work for women. We know that majority of our workforce that lost their jobs early on were held by women. So if we're really talking about working families, as the president and congressmen are, then let's talk about these things and let's get this legislation passed here in our state of Indiana.
Tony, on that topic of schools, can parents feel comfortable sending their kids back to school if there's this notion out there that they're being forced into reopening?
Well, I don't think anybody's forcing schools to reopen. The president's encouraging schools to reopen, and it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to try as hard as you can to put in all of this safety precautionary measures as much as possible, but to try to get open. And so what we're seeing is a lot of politicization and again, scare tactics. Let's get past that. Let's all work together. With school corporations need to work hand in hand with state leaders and make the right decision. But they have to be trying to get open because it's healthier for students to be in school. We know that. It's better for parents and for the economy. We can't just shut down every chance at every statistic that looks negative, because there's a lot of statistics that are trending positively, and that's what we need to remember.
Robin, your thoughts on all this and what we may see here in the weeks to come?
I agree with Tony on not shutting down. This costs less than a bag of potato chips. Wear one. That's a big deal. I talked to Jeff Butts today, the superintendent in Wayne Township, 17,000 students. They're getting ready to open school again. We work with a lot of schools across the state. They're bracing for it. On the last issue, the thing in Bloomington, look, this has a big economic impact. If people do not feel comfortable going to Monroe, Lake Monroe, feel comfortable going to Turkey Run on a walk, feel comfortable being isolated because there may be some yahoos like we saw down there to yell to go get a rope. I mean, come on. At some point, I don't know what it takes for a prosecutor to look at that and not see that there's something wrong there. We've got to stop this, Dan. It's going to have an economic impact on this state. And Indiana has a storied history on racism. We don't need to rekindle it right now.
Mike, quite a week in the news here in our state.
Oh, absolutely. We have not yet talked, and probably don't have time to spend a lot of time talking about President Trump's big loss before the Supreme Court earlier in the week. I mean, the Supremes and his two appointees voted against him, by the way, said he's not special. He has to argue in a trial court just like anybody else, and there's no heightened sense of urgency or privilege. The other thing I want to go back to the Attorney General, as I understand just a couple of minutes ago, was told that Curtis Hill is going to ask for a recount. Now, he lost by more than 70 votes, and in my opinion, that makes him a sore loser in addition to a predator.
Where does, with everything that's happening this year, Rima, everything that's happening in the news on a lot of weighty subjects, where does that put us as a country and as a state as we get ready to go to the polls here in November?
I think that people's eyes are open. People are looking at what ICE is trying to do, take away funding for international and sending international students back. That has an economic impact, not only in our state, but in our country. I think people are plugged in. People are no longer accepting what's going on in DC and the racism and this racist rhetoric that this president is running on. And I'm really hopeful that by having people's eyes open, that's going to transform people's votes.
IU spoke out this week about the situation you referenced there in terms of international students. Tony, the White House, can they keep the president focused on a message that can win in November with him trailing in the polls?
Yeah, he's focused. He's laser focused on defeating the coronavirus and on building back our economy.
But he tweeted about a lot of different things, right, over the course of the past week. A lot of different controversies.
There's a lot of issues going on, and he's not shy to make his opinions known, and that's good. That's why, folks like me that voted for him, we voted for a bold leader that would take on these tough issues. What's important and what's most important, I think, right now in front of us is this attack on our society, on our culture, on our law enforcement, and he's standing firmly and strongly for law enforcement and to keep this crazy defund the police movement from gaining any more traction. Got to
leave it there. Tony, thank you so much. Tony, Rima, Mike, Robin, we appreciate your time this week. We'll be back right after this. Stick around.